up close video. So for today's video, I've got another Arteza up close look, but this one is a little bit different because I thought I would do a video showing kind of like the essential products that Arteza make. Not that you need these products, but like the kind of the Arteza version of lots of items that you use a lot in your crafting. For example, water brushes, black pens, fine detail paintbrushes, foam tape, sellotape, and paper, all that kind of stuff. I thought I would just do one up close video just looking at all the different bits and pieces. Some of these I have been trying out for over a year because some of them are the things that Arteza sent me in one of the first packages they sent me, which was over a year ago now, and some things are ones that I've only been trying out for a couple of months, but I wanted to show a kind of comparison between different black pens and you know, that kind of stuff as well. And then also some of the products are stuff that I've actually rebought as well, because I've used all of the one-up that Arteza sent me and I've really enjoyed using it, so I've rebought the product as well. So I thought it would be nice just to put it all in one video. And before I go any further, I'm on the affiliate scheme for Arteza, so if you use any of the links in the description below the video for any of the products that I've shown you in this video, or if you use them just to, like, as one of my direct links just to get to either of the Arteza websites, you will be supporting me and I'll get a small percentage of whatever you buy at no extra cost to you. And as a thank you to you for using my links, you can use the code CRaFTiPotential5 to get 10% off, and it's valid until the 10th of August 2020, so you should have over a month of time to like decide what products you might want to have a go at trying, and you can get an extra 10% off of them. And I will put that code down here on the screen, and I'll also put it as the first thing in the description box, so it's easy for you to copy and paste it onto the website as well. And I'm pretty sure you put this in after you've put everything in your basket. I think when you go through to the checkout, you can then put in a code to show your discount that you'd be getting. But I mean, all of Arteza products are actually so reasonably priced anyway, so you're getting an extra bargain with an extra 10% off too. So I've got lots of different things to show you. I've got a few things that I've got like examples to go with them as well. So let's start with the fine tipped paintbrushes. So this is a set. You probably heard me talking about them in my gouache videos, and I think I probably mentioned them in my watercolour videos as well. But these are the Arteza detailed paintbrushes, and you actually get a set of 15 of them. Sorry if you can hear the rain, it's just started pouring down outside. But yeah, sorry, 15 different paintbrushes. You can see these are the two. I've actually only started using two. They've been lasting so well. I've only been using two of them all this time, and I'm pretty sure these were in one of the first bundles they sent me, so literally like a year's worth of use, and I use them for so many different things. You can use them for gouache watercolour, or you can even use them for your acrylic painting as well if you want to get some really fine detail into your artwork, and also for products that Cosmic Shimmer and Nuvo have. You know, when I like to scoop a little bit out, water it down and pick it up with a paintbrush and flick it on. If you want a really fine flicked splatter, even with those kind of mica glitter packed products, you can still achieve that with these gorgeous fine tipped brushes. And I mean, after a year's worth of use, they still look in pretty good shape, and obviously when you wet them the bristles go together a little bit more and you get that fine point back again. But they're really, really useful. I've really enjoyed using these, and there's 5 of each 3 different type of brushes in the set. I haven't got the original packaging anymore because, you know, I chucked that out ages ago. I just keep them in a little glass on my desk, and so there's 3 different types. There is the liner, which has longer bristles for doing more line work, or it's, I think the reason why liner brushes are that long is because the longer bristle will hold more paint, and so you can keep going as a continuous line for longer than with another brush. And then you've also got the round brush and the spot brush as well, which are pretty similar. I think maybe the spot brush has a few more bristles in it, I'm not really sure, but the two I've been using are the round and the spot brush. No, so I think it's the round one that's maybe got more bristles in. But there's also a couple different sizes in there. There's 0, 1, and I think they might just all be different 0s and 1s. Or what's this one? Oh, this is 4 over 0. So there's a nice variation in sizes of these, and often a lot of the sets you might be able to get on Amazon of like paintbrushes and stuff, they never go down this fine, and if they do, they don't often have a nice point to them. So I really have been enjoying these paintbrushes, and I highly recommend them. I think the set of 15 is about £12, so it's less than £1 for a gorgeous fine detailed brush, and it's quite difficult to find brushes anywhere for that kind of a price. So these detail brushes are fabulous. Then, staying on the brushes theme, another one of the products that I have been playing with, I've just noticed there's water in the lid of that one. I better take that out before I get it everywhere. Okay, so another one of the products that I got sent pretty early on are these Arteza water brushes, and it's an assorted set of 6 different water brushes. You get 3 round ones and 3 flat ones. The bristles, when you get them, they are actually clear, like, you know, like clear or white nylon bristles. Obviously I have been using mine a lot over the past year, so they are all sort of different colours, but I'll just take all the lids off and come back to you to show you them. They also do I think maybe 1 or 2 other sets of water brushes that are slightly different, because instead of having this actual like push button on the barrel, they just have probably push but actually on a squidgier barrel, rather than this barrel is actually rigid plastic and then this bit is squidgy, rather than the whole barrel being squidgy. I did have one of them around here somewhere. So this kind of style they also do. This one came with my Arteza real brush pens, so it has a much softer plastic for the barrel and doesn't have a designated spot to press to get the water to flow down the system and into the bristles. So this is another kind that you could get if you preferred. It's actually a little bit shorter, the handle length, so if you preferred shorter brushes to work with, you might prefer this style, but I have only got the one in this. I think it comes in the different brush sizes, but I'm not 100% sure, but that is another style that Arteza do. So these ones though, let's show you the bristles on them. So you get the 3 different sizes of the flat ones, and like I said before, mine are really stained because I've been using them a lot, but they're so useful, especially when you're working quickly and you haven't got a pot of water on your desk, or maybe you've just decided, I want to see if some watercolour would go well with what I've been doing, but you're too lazy to go and get a pot of water like I usually am. Just to have them already filled up and ready to go is brilliant. And also a tip of filling them up really easily, or taking away the need to have to go to the sink to fill them up. What I do is I have one of these bottles. It's pretty much empty now. I've been being lazy a lot and filling things up, but it's one of these wash bottles that you usually get in a laboratory for putting distilled water and stuff in, but I've just been using normal tap water in them, and I just have this on my desk. It's already full up, and then all you do is twist off the top of your water brush, and you can easily refill them with the water from the wash bottle, and then put the lid back on, and you're good to go with more water as well. Because depending on what you've been using the bristles for, sometimes you do need to flush the brush through with more water to get like mica-y stuff out of them, if you've been using shimmery watercolours or been using some kind of mica filled sort of product. So I always like having that bottle on hand to easily fill them up. But the way these brushes work, I'll show you with a different one so I don't dump that water everywhere, but the way these brushes work is their whole like valve system is just in the lid, so you don't have anything going into the barrel of the brush. So when you fill them up, you can actually fill them up to the screw thread that screws the lid back on, whereas some of the water brushes, it's really annoying because you fill them up to the top and then you go, oh no, I forgot the whole like bit in the lid actually goes into the water brush as well, and then all the water overflows over the top. If you've ever done that, you'll know what I mean. But that's what I really like about these brushes. That whole barrel is completely filled with water. You're not losing any capacity for water from having to have the valve go down into the barrel. So those are the three flat brushes, and when you put their lids back on, I just kind of press all the bristles together a little bit more so that I can get them on a lot easier, and I'm not going to splay any of the bristles outwards. So those are the three flat ones, and then the three round ones are also a really nice, decent selection of small round brushes as well. They're not as fine as the detailed, or maybe actually that could actually rival the detailed brush, but with the actual detailed brushes you can really control the amount of water to product that you're using as well. So although this water brush does go down to that really fine point, it's nice to have both options to be able to control the amount of water, because maybe you want more of a concentrated, like for example when you've mixed the Arteza mica powders with water to get a watercolory mixture, you might want it to be more concentrated and not have that flow of water coming into it. So in that case the small detail brushes are really useful as well. But these are brilliant for any of your watercolouring techniques, and you've got a nice control over them, and they're nice fat barrels. I mean, they're probably about 1 centimetre diameter, whereas I suppose most water brushes are that big because of holding the water inside of them. So if you have any problems with gripping tightly onto a normal paintbrush, for example, you know, one that's maybe the same kind of size as that middle size, if you struggle with holding something that's this small, maybe water brushes are better for you. Even if you don't fill them with water, you can just use them as a normal brush and you've got a bigger grippy handle to hold on to as well. So those are the other three sizes of the water brushes, which is another one of my products that I have found so useful. I used to have, I still have them somewhere, some different brands of watercolour brushes, or water brushes, but I never used to reach for them that often. I'm not really sure why, but now I have all 6 of these sizes. I use them so often. Like, I'm always reaching for one of these, even if I'm not actually using it as a brush. If you just want an extra little bit of water for something that you're using on your desk, you can just really easily squeeze this and get some extra water out to mix with something else. So I highly recommend those water brushes as well. Then I wanted to show the foam tape. So you probably saw, there might have been some cropping up recently because I don't edit my videos in the order that I film them, but it was around November, December time last year I bought myself a roll of this because I really wanted to try it, and I used that entire roll up, and luckily Arteza sent me another roll, so I have now been using this one as well. But it's a really enormous roll of double-sided foam tape. If you've had the Scotch 3M foam tape in the past, which is the one with the crisscrossy green and white background, it's the same, practically the same length of foam on this roll as you get on those kind of rolls. So a massive, like, this one's 32.9 metres, so basically 33 metres of foam tape. However, there is a difference in the 3M one to this one. This one, I think they're about the same thickness. Yeah, they are. They're both 2mm thick. So you can see the thickness between, this is the 3M one on the top, and that's the Arteza one. They're exactly the same thickness, but there is a difference in the density of the foam. So I actually have really been enjoying using both of them, because sometimes you want something with a little bit more give in it. So the 3M one, it hardly squishes at all. It's really dense. They call it a polyurethane foam, and it's really dense. Whereas the Arteza one, you can actually squish it. It's very difficult to show on camera, but you can actually squish this one more. So it's more of a, although this, no, you can, yeah, you can squish it more. It does feel firmer, this one, than my first roll actually. from what I can remember the first roll feeling like. But anyway, it's slightly more squishy than the 3M one, but it's also narrower than the 3M kind of one, because this is kind of like the standard roll size you get of that, but it's actually narrower. So this one is 1/2 an inch, whereas I think this one is 3/4 of an inch. So if you like using it in more narrow spaces, like around shaker cards and stuff, it is already a nice sort of narrow size. And also it cuts really nicely with scissors. You especially want the non-stick coated kind of scissors, like the Tonic ones, the Tim Holtz ones. All 3 sizes of these pairs of scissors have that non-stick coating on, and they also do these kind of style ones with the smaller handles that don't bend to the shape of your hand. Any scissors that have that kind of is it Teflon coating on there that stops things from sticking to them is great for cutting foam tape like this, and you can see how easy it was to cut that in half. But another one of the advantages of this foam tape being as kind of malleable and I suppose squishier than the 3M foam tape is that you can bend it around things easier. So I just got a post-it note here. You can actually curve it really nicely. You can do it with the 3M one as well, but because this is a bit more squishy, it gives you even more give to curve it nicely. So again, for shaker cards, it's really nice to actually curve around the aperture of a circle or an oval or something, and it's going to stay put as it is as well, which is really nice. So I thought I would show you this foam tape as well. You'll probably see it cropping up in my videos again. So the red backed one is the Arteza one. If you ever see me using red backed double-sided foam tape, then it's the Arteza roll. And also it's really reasonably priced. It's $14.99 for the 33 metres, so 11 metres for £5, that kind of works out at. So it's, you know, pretty decent price. And it also comes in that nice box as well, so you can actually keep it in the box to keep it nice. And it says stuff, its properties really. So it's a white tape, it's double-sided, it's got really strong adhesion, it's weather resistant. I haven't tested that, but they say it's weather resistant. Acid free as well, so if you're doing your scrapbooking, great for that. And you can use it indoor and outdoor, so I hadn't actually realised that before, so that's brilliant that you can make things for outside and use it out there. And it looks like on the packaging they're showing someone's going to put that on their wall, so hang a photo frame on a wall, so that's brilliant if it holds that kind of thing. It says its holding capacity is 1 kilogram, so that's really good. And it's got a really good temperature range as well, so not like blue tack and stuff. If you've ever used like blue tack or hot glue and then you've put it in the direct sunlight, it kind of falls apart, whereas this is up to 80 degrees C, so I don't think even other places in the world their summers get that hot, so really good. Yeah, so that's the foam tape roll. Okay, then I thought I would show you this as well. This is the Arteza acrylic pad, so it's kind of like a really dense kind of card, because I think it's 400 GSM weight of card, but it's actually got a canvas texture on it, but more of a pronounced canvas texture than you get on other lighter weight cardstock, and it's really gives that actual real looking canvas look. So I've actually been using this in conjunction with the Arteza pouring paints, which very soon there will be a video up about those as well. So I'll show you a couple of examples of where I've used the pouring paint, but you actually still get that textured look as though it was on a canvas, because a lot of people do the acrylic pouring to be works of art that go up on the wall, but I really like the look of the canvas that you get through the paint. As the paint dries, it kind of shrinks down between the texture, but for us card makers, you don't always want to have to use pieces of canvas in your cards. You know, it's nice to actually be able to use a piece of cardstock that's not going to be too heavy on your card or not going to be awkward to attach to a card, but you still get that really cool look of an actual poured painting on a canvas as well. And here's a finished card that I did using it too. You can see I've got the canvas texture in the background on the acrylic pour. Really lovely, and it's actually nice and white. So you can see here that's the actual colour of it, and this is a normal white card blank that I use, and it's actually nice and white in the same colour, because a lot of the time the textured card that you can get is usually like a watercolour card, and it's often an off-white colour, which is kind of annoying when you put it on a white card blank. But this has actually got that beautiful bright white colour, which is really nice. So I've actually been using this for ages, and it's going on for a long time, because this one, I can't remember if they do it in smaller sizes as well, but this one is the A3 one. So from an A4 piece of card, which is half an A3, I usually cut that into quarters to get 4 backgrounds out for a card. So from one of these sheets, I can actually get 8 cards out of it. And if you think about how many sheets are in here, 8 cards times 16, plus you get 2 pads of this in a pack. So for round about £19, getting that many card front pieces of card to make cards, and in my favourite kind of an A6 sort of a size, is really good. And because it comes in this really gorgeous large A3 size, you could do an acrylic pour or a really cool abstract acrylic painting, or maybe something more refined with an acrylic painting onto this cardstock, but then you could frame it in a frame with glass over the front, rather than if you had worked on a canvas, it would kind of be open to the elements and could get damaged over time or get dusty and stuff. So it's really nice to have this option of such a large size, but with that gorgeous texture on as well. I don't know if I can just show you the raw texture. Yeah, there you go. So it kind of looks like a linen card that I've tried in the past before, but it's a really heavyweight cardstock. It hardly buckles at all when you're doing any acrylic pouring on it. If I show you this piece, I've got everything here ready to film my acrylic pouring video, that's why I've got all these little samples around. But this was just a half sheet of this, so an A4 size. And you can see it has buckled a little bit with the moisture. I had done this quite thickly though, because this was me experimenting with blowing the paints around to get this really cool effect. But even though there is a little bit of buckle to it, use some double-sided tape on the back of that and it'll easily flatten it down, or if you put it in a frame it will flatten it down, or even the foam tape actually. If you put the foam tape on the back, that has got a nice strong adhesive, so it should keep it nice and flat as well. But I've really been loving this cardstock, and it really has been going a long way as well. I mean, I'm not sure how many sheets I've got left in here, but I've got half the pack left in here. So I've been using this since I did my acrylic paint video. I can't remember how many months ago that is now, but surely it must be more than 6 months. And I've only used half of one of the pads, so it is really going a long way, which is brilliant. So I thought I'd show you that as well. Okay, then I've also got their matte finish invisible tape to show you as well, which I was kind of intrigued about. So there is 20 rolls in this pack, so it would be a great one to split with a friend as well, but it's less than £20 for the pack, so it's less than £1 a roll, which is really nice value. And it actually comes in little shrink wrapped packs of 5, so you could easily split this up between 4 of you and you'd all get a 5 roll pack each, which is really lovely. And it comes in a really nice box, so you know, if you're in more of an officey kind of environment as well, having this on the shelf and people know exactly what's in there is really nice. I love their packaging. It always looks really nice and well designed, which is lovely. So I got this for a specific reason, because you know, when you're working on the jelly plate, I showed this in my acrylic paint video, and I might have shown it in my iridescent acrylic paint video for the Arteza paints that I showed before, where you can just use tape to clean your jelly plate, but you can also use it to create really cool embellishments that can be used on your project as well. So I've got an example here. So, oh yeah, well usually I use the shiny kind of tape, just like normal sellotape, but often you don't want that shiny finish on your card. I know you can flip the tape over and stick the shiny side down so you get the sort of paint flakes stuck to the other side on it, but I wondered how it would work with the matte tape, and it works really nicely. So this is an example that I've done. And you can see it gives that gorgeous matte effect to it. Obviously you can still use it the other way and have the paint on there, but it gives a really nice effect having that matte finish on there as well. So I'll show you how you do that as well, just in case you didn't see my other video, where I think I showed it in the other video. So this is my jelly plate, which I just layered a few different colours on, and then I've just got one of these little I think they're kind of more disposable little tape holders, but it's working really nicely for this, and it's a standard size of tape, so it should fit on any tape dispenser that you have, really, if it's a pretty one or just a boring one. I've just written Arteza on it so I know what kind of tape it is. But all you do is you take a length of the tape, and it tears really nicely, this one as well. So you just take a length of the tape and then you can stick it onto your jelly plate and then press it down really nicely so it makes contact with all the paint. And then you can just peel it up, and it completely cleans your jelly plate, and then you get this cool embellishment to work with as well. So you can either use that side, which has got the actual paint stuck to it, or you can use the gorgeous matte side, which I think looks really lovely. I am more of a fan of that matte effect. I do like sparkle and shimmery stuff, but when it comes to like high gloss stuff, I think, unless it's mirror card, you know, when you have like matte gel medium and stuff, I'd much rather use the matte version than a glossy version. So having the matte tape, I think, goes really nicely with the kind of things that I like to do. So I wanted to show you that as a cool way of using this kind of matte tape, or any matte finish tape that you might have already, actually. And you could just stick this onto pieces of paper, because if you take a piece that is longer than your jelly plate, you can then use the exposed adhesive that's left on there just to attach it to a piece of paper so you can use it later. And if you were just cleaning your jelly plate and there wasn't paint all over the surface, so you had adhesive left on the back of it, you can take foil that you might have, gilding flakes, really fine ground glitter, mica powder, anything like that, you can then put onto the open adhesive areas, and that would fill them in as well and give you some extra sort of sparkly look on there too. And I haven't actually tried it, but on the packaging it shows that you can write on it, so I thought I'd show you some examples of, or like we can test out pens together basically and see which pens work best for writing on this. And in that case, if you can actually write on it, then you should be able to stamp on it as well. So for example, if you've got this kind of a thing, imagine a stamped sentiment on there and then trim it out and put it on your card. It would look really lovely. So I think that would be a really cool way of using it. Or if you have really lovely handwriting, you can handwrite a sentiment or a quote if you're doing art journaling. So loads of different ways of using this tape in your project as well. So let's get some pieces. This is just an orange piece of card because I thought we can kind of test the invisibility of the tape as well. So if you press it down, it is pretty good actually. I mean, you can still see that it's there, but that is really pretty good for invisibility. So let's do, I've got 5 different pens to test out, 4 Arteza ones and then just a Sharpie as well, so we can see which one works best. And we could also write on it and smudge it straight away or after a little bit of time and see if they still smudge as well. Because it's got a nice matte surface, the pens should be able to grab to that surface and hopefully should dry without smudging as well. Okay, so we've got our 5 little test pieces. So the pens I'm going to test, I'm also going to show you these pens in a minute in more detail, but the pens I'm going to test are the fine liner, which is a 0.4 thickness that comes in a multi-pack, so you can get lots of these together, just the black ones. Then there's also the two rollerball pens, one in a 0.5 and one in a 0.7, which are fine and extra fine tips. And then I thought we could also try the Everblend alcohol pen, and then also a Sharpie. We can try the fat and the thin end of a Sharpie as well. So maybe I'll put a 6-piece down, so we can try both ends of the Sharpie on different pieces. Just as I thought this would be just a nice thing to do together, so we can actually test it out nicely. So let's start with the Arteza fine liner. So if I just write fine liner on here, and then let's smudge it straight away, and it smudges straight away, but let's leave it to dry, and we'll come back to that at the end and we'll see if it still smudges. I didn't think that this one would really stay because it is a water-based pen, but it was worth a try. Then we've got the 0.5 rollerball, and that one also smudges straight away, but it is a wetter ink actually. But we'll leave that again and we'll come back to that. Then we've got the 0.7 rollerball, which is probably going to do the same thing. Yep. But again, we'll leave it to dry and come back. 0.7. Then these two should dry straight away, theoretically, because they're more of a permanent pen. However, the alcohol pen might be a little bit different, but let's go Everblend. Oh, okay, that does dry straight away. So Everblends are fabulous on this tape then, so we don't even need to write that again. That worked really well. Then a Sharpie, we can do... Ooh, that actually smudged, wow. I was not expecting that. Okay. And then let's try the fine end of the Sharpie as well. No, see, that dried straight away. Okay, so the best two pens to use on the Arteza matte tape is the Everblend alcohol pens and the fine end of a Sharpie. That dries instantly. But let's go back and check. I think they're still wet actually. The fine line is almost dry. So maybe I'll leave that until the end. I'll come back to that and wait until that ink has had a proper chance to actually dry on there, and then we'll see which one of these fares best for leaving it over time to get it to dry on there. So I think this is really interesting. The fact that the Everblend ones work really nicely, that's really interesting, because you could actually use a permanent ink to stamp a pattern all over some pieces of this, stick it onto something that you could easily release it off of, so like the backing sheet off of a big a double-sided adhesive sheet. You know, you get the plastic backing on it. You could stick multiple lengths onto that, stamp all over it, and then use your Everblend markers to colour the images in, and then you could have your own like custom patterned washi tape sort of stuff as well, because having the matte surface, it would look more like washi tape than using actual sellotape. So I think that's really good. So that is the tape, which we will come back to that experiment. And then, so to give things a little test, I was also testing out these 3 different black pens. So the first one we're looking at, these are both the same, I just had 2 of them in my pot. So these are the Arteza 0.4 fine liner, and you can get this in a pack of 12 of them, and it's about like £8, so really decently priced. Does that make it about 75p a pen maybe? So really decently priced for them, and the 0.4 is a really nice width of pen, and it's great for filling in any bits where you've missed when you've been stamping an image, because these fine liners are actually a water-based pen, so they are great for fixing the line work or drawing as well, and then using your alcohol pens over the top of them. So that's really that's what these are really good for. But I threw them in to show with these, because I use these a lot. You probably see me reaching for these a lot. You know, whenever I add a doodled black line border around something, I'm usually picking out one of these pens to use. But I wanted to show them with these other two pens that I'm going to show you, because there's kind of a difference in the black of the ink. So although these are really great and they are more, they're water-based, so they can work with your alcohol pens, they are slightly less of a black ink. However, that doesn't actually matter that much, because a lot of the ink pads that are good for stamping with and using your alcohol markers don't always stamp really nice and black. So if you are using alcohol markers with them and you've used an alcohol friendly ink pad, you can touch it up with this. But sometimes if you stamped with, for example, the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, it's much blacker, and so then when you go and add some extra details with these pens, you can kind of notice where you've drawn extra details in, because the line looks less black than the stamped line, if that makes any sense. If you've done it before, you'll probably know what I mean. But so I threw them in on one of my examples just to show you the difference. But the main pens I'm showing you are these two packs of pens. So you get 20 in each of these packs. I think you can also get a 40 pack of them as well. So if you really like this kind of pen, they should be a really great value getting them in a bigger pack. But they are the rollable pens from Arteza. So they've got a liquid ink that you can actually see in the side of the barrel. Yeah, you can see there. So mine's down to about here. I don't know if it's that visible, but it's down to about here. So you can actually see what the level of the ink is in your pen, and they are available in 2 different sizes. You can also get different colours in them as well, I think, but I went for the black ones because I tend to use black pens the most for outlining and doodling and stuff. But there's 20 pens in each set. One is the 0.5, which is the extra fine, and one is the 0.7, which is the fine. And the 0.5 ones is about £14 for 20 pens, and the 0.7 ones is about £16 for 20 pens. So again, they work out less than £1 each. And if you're using the 10% off voucher with my code, you'd be getting them for even less than that as well. So I think they're pretty decently priced, especially to other similar kind of pens on the market that you can get that are this kind of rollable style. These have never actually been my favourite kind of pen to use, but I really wanted to give them a go and see what they were like, and I have actually really enjoyed using them. When I've used other ones in the past with that rollable tip, I put quite a lot of pressure down when I'm drawing. Like, I'm quite heavy-handed with a pen or a pencil, and usually the rollable kind of gets stuck or it skips and stuff when you're drawing with it, but I haven't actually found that with these ones. I found that the constant flow of ink through the rollable system is really nice, so I wanted to say that as well, because often, obviously, when you're seeing a pen on the internet, you don't actually know exactly what it's going to be like in person. And also, I got my sister to try a couple of these out as well, because she's left-handed, and it's not completely left-handed smudge proof, but it's better than other pens like this, if you know what I mean. It kind of, I suppose it depends on what paper you're writing on, really, to how quickly the ink is going to soak into the paper and whether you're going to have smudged it before the ink has dried. But they seem to be a pretty decent pen for someone who's left-handed and might be prone to smudging their writing as they're writing across a page. So that's also a good point. And on the packaging, they state that they are waterproof, fade resistant. I haven't tested fade resistant because I've only been playing with them for a couple of months. And they're also aeroplane safe, so I presume that means that you won't get a massive explosion after being on an aeroplane when you take the lid off because of the air pressure that builds up in them, so that's good too. But going on what they said about it being waterproof, I wanted to test that to see if it's waterproof in the kind of ways that I would like to use them, if you know what I mean. So I've done a few different experiments. So the first experiment I did, I was actually using my Copics rather than my Everblends because they were actually hidden at that point and I couldn't get to them very easily. But the same thing applies with a Everblend marker as well. I've actually got them here. I'll just draw on it with one of them. What colour was he using? Purple. So if I take an Everblend out, you get the same result as with a Copic. So that's just a good test as well. So this is the bit I was talking about with the 0.4 fine liner. So the ink is kind of a little bit less intense. I don't know if you can really tell on camera, but this is a blacker ink. So if you're using an ink pad that is really nice and dark black, then the 0.7 of the rollerball is probably going to be nicest for you to correct the line art if you've misstamped something. Whereas I really don't know whether you can actually see that on camera. This is a really deep grey, so it kind of goes better with those ink pads that don't stamp completely black. But I don't know if that really makes a lot of difference to many people, but that's just something I've noticed. And then I also did a test of the 0.5 and the 0.7 to see if they smudged when using alcohol pens over them, and they don't. So although these ones say that they are waterproof, that usually means that they're permanent, you know, and if you use a permanent pen with an alcohol pen, it often bleeds, but they don't bleed. So that is a really good test to know, because sometimes you might think that only these kind of pens could be used to do your line art and stuff when using alcohol pens, but you can use these ones as well, which is brilliant. So if you love doing your own drawings and you want a really nice crisp black outline for some line art that you're doing, you could go over it with this and then colour in, or you could do it the other way around and then it wouldn't particularly matter what kind of pen you were using, but you don't get any smudging, so that's really nice to know. And then I decided to do some other little tests as well. So this was on Arteza watercolour paper, the smooth side and the rough side. This was me adding watercolours first, letting it dry, and then drawing over the top, and that works perfectly. There's absolutely no problem with using these pens over the top of dried watercolour, whether it's on the rough side or the smooth side of watercolour paper. So that's good to know. But then I thought, well, what happens if I want to draw my line art first and then do my watercolour painting over the top? And I was like, they say they're waterproof, so I did a little test, and the 0.5 one is waterproof, but the 0.4 is pretty much waterproof, but the 0.7 one is a little bit sketchy as to whether it's waterproof or not. Maybe if you left it for longer, it might be waterproof, but the way I was using them, it's not. It does bleed with water. So this one, everything here is written with the 0.5 except for the 0.7, and this was using a little bit of water with some watercolour paints, and this was using a lot more water with some watercolour paint, and this was just doing a light wash over when I'd written on it. So you can see here that is totally fine, with a little bit of water is fine, but adding more water where it can sort of disturb the ink on the cardstock is not as good. And this is on the rough side of the watercolour paper, and you can see on the rough side the 0.5 line thickness is totally fine. The 0.7 is bleeding a little bit, but it's kind of okay. But when you look at this one, these are all 0.7, and this is 0.7, but this is the 0.5, and this is on the smooth side of the watercolour paper, and the 0.5 is having a little bit of trouble on the smooth side. So you can see on the rough side it didn't move at all, but on the smooth side it is moving a little bit. So I'd say that maybe these might be best if you use them on top of something you've already watercoloured, or if you're not using a lot of water, then they would be good. But it's a little bit sketchy about the 0.7. I think because they've obviously they're a bigger rollerball on the end of it to get the 0.7 width of a line out of it. They're obviously putting out more ink as you draw with them, so maybe if you left them longer they might dry to be permanent before you adding the water on the top. But with little amount of water there's not too much smudging. It's just when you go into a lot of water, because there's a lot of ink there, you can see that it's bleeding more than the finer of the points of them as well. So I just wanted to show you that too, because I was doing an art journal page just in my cheapy little kind of traveller's notebook style art journal, and I had gessoed the page, and then I went to stamp a load of different flowers, and I thought, oh, I'm going to test out these pens and draw in some extra details on it. And then I went to watercolour it in with my gouaches, and everything started bleeding. So I was like, oh, maybe they're not permanent then. So if you use them on gesso, on a gessoed surface, they write really nicely, the 0.5 and the 0.7. However, when you add water, they kind of are not permanent at all on gesso. I mean, that kind of makes sense, sort of, I guess. Yeah, I guess, because I suppose the gesso adds a layer so it's not so porous, maybe? I'm not sure, actually. But anyway, they're definitely not permanent on a gessoed surface. So I just wanted to say that as well, so you don't make the same mistake that I did with an art journal page. Luckily, I could just rip it out of the book and I wasn't too fussed about it, but it's a little bit annoying when you've just spent like half an hour adding extra doodles to something and then you go to paint it, and I was using blues and you just got all of this fuzzy bleeding around it. Although you might want that effect for something, actually. It would give a more like vintagey kind of a look, or, you know, a different kind of effect, especially if you've doodled some patterns on and then you add the water on the top to get more of a diffused kind of look. So in some ways that might actually be a cool technique to use these for. But if you're just, this is obviously just arty kind of ways of using these pens, just as pens for writing with, like for normal stationery, these are brilliant. And they're even good for people who press really hard when they write. So I think just as a general pen, they're brilliant, but for crafters, you kind of got to be a little more picky about where and when you might use them, because I guess because they're a wetter ink, I suppose, compared to these kind of fine liner pens. I think these dry quicker, so they're kind of better for us crafters who are in a rush. But if you're going to correct the line work after you've coloured something, especially after you've coloured it with watercolours, I think these are going to be really brilliant. And if you're maybe doodling on top of something watercoloured, then, you know, obviously doing it after on top of is going to be better. But with Copics or your Arteza Everblend alcohol pens, it seems to be fine to use them with that. They're dry quick enough to be used with your alcohol pens. So I just thought I would show you all my little experiments, because sometimes it's useful to pass that kind of thing on. You might be wondering those kind of things. I don't know. That kind of stuff interests me, so I thought I would pass it on. And let's just have a quick look back at these pens we were just talking about on this tape. So let's see if the fine liner smudges. Yeah, it does smudge. So fine liners are definitely not good for writing on this tape. Let's try the 0.5. Yeah, no, that's definitely not good either, and the 0.7. So those ones really do not like to dry on a slick surface, but the best ones, or we can try this now as well. Yeah, Sharpie's fine now. So the best pens to use to write on this Arteza matte tape is definitely the Everblend art markers, which are alcohol-based pens. The Sharpies, after you've let them dry, well, the thick Sharpie after you've let it dry, but the thin Sharpie was perfect straight away. So that's just that nice little test as well, just so you know what kind of pens would write on these nicely. Because the good thing about this sort of stuff is, especially in a craft room, if you've got lots of containers or even just cardboard boxes that have got all of your craft stuff in, just sticking a piece of tape across it and then using a Sharpie or an alcohol pen to write what's in it is so much more time saving, really, than having to print out labels or type out labels and stuff as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this kind of different up close video from what I usually do, just showing you a few kind of essential products that Arteza carry and that I've been trying for either a couple of months or for like a year, and things that I would recommend or wanted to show like differences between. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget, if you're interested in anything I've shown in this video or anything off either of the Arteza websites, that you can use my links below the video to support me by using my affiliate links, and you can also use the CRaFTi Potential 5 discount code to get 10% off your order, and you've got until the 10th of August to use that as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!